Hey everyone, we're going to be reviewing percents today. This is a skill that you'll have to use on some upcoming topics. Now let's go ahead and start with the word percent. Per means every or out of, and the cent means the 100. Like 100 cents in a dollar or 100 years in a century. Now the percent is always out of 100, but we're usually looking for a different part. We could be looking for the percent, but we may be looking for the part or the whole amount that's in the problem. So we use this percent proportion to help us with that. Now you can also see it written opposite of this, where you have the part over the whole equals percent over 100. That part's fine as long as you have the percent over 100 and the part over the whole, the proportion will work. In this section of percent review, we're going to be looking at finding the percent. The question here is, what percent of children chose oatmeal as their favorite cereal? Now, the good thing about using this proportion is that it's labeled, and so we can just plug in the parts that we have, and whatever's left over, there's going to be one section that we don't know, and that's what we're going to be looking for. Now, the 100 is a constant. It always stays the same. And this question says, what percent? So that means that's what we're going to be looking for, is the percent. So we can use a variable like x to show the part we're looking for. Now, over here, we have the part and the whole. In the question, it says, what percent of children chose oatmeal as their favorite cereal? So that tells us the part of this table we're looking at. We're looking at oatmeal. 15 children chose oatmeal as their favorite, and now the whole amount. Now, in this problem, they don't give you the whole amount, but they do give you the list of all the numbers of children. So what would be the whole amount for this problem? When you add up 15 plus 10 plus 2 plus 20 plus 3, you get a total of 50. So that is our whole amount. Sometimes they give it to you and sometimes you have to find it. Now, we have everything labeled and set up. So now for the solving. I'm going to show you a few different ways that you can solve. The first thing that I would suggest you look at is there a direct relationship from 50 to 100? How do we get from 50 to 100? We can multiply by 2. If you can multiply your denominators by 2, that means you can also multiply your numerators by 2 to make it a proportion. So 15 times 2 gives us 30. So we have 30%. That means 30% of the children chose oatmeal as their favorite cereal. Now, this is not the only way that we could do this. If you don't see that at first and you're not sure about that, another thing you can do, another strategy, is to simplify whichever ratio you have. Here we have 15 out of 50, so we can also simplify that. We can divide the numerator and denominator by 5, which means we could simplify this to x over 100 equals 3 over 10, because 15 divided by 5 is 3 and 50 divided by 5 is 10. Now, when you simplify it, you have smaller numbers, so sometimes it's easier to work with. Now, you can do the same thing we did first, where we look for the relationship here. You could do that. 10 times 10 is 100, and 3 times 10 is 30. 30%, the answer we already got. Or, if you're like, I really am not good at that, I can't see it that way, the other thing you can do is also cross multiply. So you can take 100 times 3 and get 300 equals, and then multiply 10 times x to get 10x, and then we can divide both sides by 10. Now it's just a one-step equation. On the right side, 10 divided by 10 is 1, so we just have our 1x, and then 300 divided by 10 gives you 30. Either way that you solve it, whether you're finding the relationship or you're cross multiplying or you simplify or you don't, any of those ways, you can still get your answer of 30%. In this section of percent review, we're going to be finding the part. In this problem, it says on Wednesday, 72% of the customers who bought gas at a gas station made additional purchases. There were 250 customers who bought gas. How many of these 250 customers made additional purchases? So I'm actually going to show you two ways to find the part. Now, we're going to start with our percent proportion that we have discussed before. So on this one, we actually have the percent, 72% over 100. Now on this one, they give us the 250. They don't say 250 total or 250 is our whole amount, but we do know that 250 customers bought gas, and we want to know what part of that made additional purchases. We know 72% made additional purchases of the customers who bought gas, so we know that that's our part. For part, I'm going to use P as my variable. We're just looking for that section of the customers. So you can solve this in the ways that we had discussed before, where you look for a direct relationship. Now, 100 to 250 may be a little bit trickier. Remember, you always have the option of simplifying it. If you divide both of these by 2, 72 divided by 2 and 100 divided by 2, you would get 36 over 50. Now there, if you wanted to look for the relationship between 50 and 250, you could do that. You could also divide this again by 2, which would give you 18 over 25. And then you could also find the relationship here between 25 and 250, and you can multiply your numerators and your denominators. So those are all options. You can also, if simplifying is not your strong suit, remember that you can also cross multiply. And I'm going to come back to that in a moment, okay, if you were to cross multiply. Let's go ahead and look at this other strategy that you can use for finding the part, okay? And it says part equals percent times the whole amount. So if we're looking for the part, I'm going to use P as the part. Now it does say percent as a decimal, okay? So if we have 72%, that means 72 out of 100. And you actually say the fraction like you say the decimal, 72 hundredths. 72 hundredths because it's out of 100. And remember, when you divide 72 by 100 or any number by 100, you move your decimal 2 places to the left. So that's also how you can get the 72 hundredths. So we take the decimal and we multiply it by the whole amount, which is 250. What do you get when you multiply 72 hundredths times 250? When you multiply these, you should get 180. So that means that 180 customers made additional purchases. And this number makes sense because if 100% is 250, our 72% needs to be less than 250, which it is, but we also know it's more than half. So it's closer to 250 than halfway, so it does make sense. Now, I want you to notice that the way we just solved it, we divided by 100 first, to get our decimal, and then we multiplied by 250. If we were to do it over here on the right side with cross multiplication, you multiply 250 times 72 first, which gives you 10,800. And then you divide, 18,000. Sorry about that. And then you have 100 times P. And then you divide by 100 on the left side. And for that, you just have to mark out your two zeros. But either way that you do it, it's just a different order of doing it. You'll get the same answer. So if you feel comfortable using the proportion, you can always use the proportion. If you like this shortcut where you just have to multiply and not deal with a proportion or a ratio,